Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new, welcome to the family. My name is Dina. I am so happy to have you guys here. So we're going to be talking about water as an element and also how to incorporate it into your witchcraft practice. Although I'm going to be sharing a lot of different ideas and information with you guys today, opportunities are endless when it comes to witchcraft and spirituality. So if there's anything that I did not cover in this video and you want to share, by all means comment below. I'd love to hear about your personal practice and how you incorporate water. So why work with the water element? First of all, water is a big part of what we are. It makes up about 60% of our body and about 70% of the Earth's surface. So it is a big part of us and a big part of our life. Water is also symbolically connected to our emotions. As also seen in the tarot with the suit of the cups, water is an element that is very emotional driven. It's also often connected to our spirituality, mysticism, creativity, healing, and nourishment. Water is also not stagnant. Like us and like life, it changes. Water can change to ice, it can change to vapor, it can change to snow and hail. So water is very mutable in a way, just like us, and just like our emotions and how our emotions flow and they change and they evolve. With that being said, because of this property of, ever changing, ever flowing, water can often be used in spell work for stimulating change. Water also has cleansing properties. We've used it to wash our food, wash ourselves. Because of that, it can be used for cleansing and magic. With that being said, water is often used to cleanse away negative energy, as seen in many old traditions with holy water, water that is blessed by the church. Water is often used in cleansing away negative energy, negative entities, and often could be used as such in your witchcraft practice. I also want to mention that the moon is very much also connected to water. One, because the moon affects the tides and how the tides move, but also because the moon has cycles, and I'm distracted by the beautiful sunrise at my window. It's really early right now. Anyways, but the moon has cycles, and just like the moon, water has cycles in a way, how it cycles through the earth. We've all seen that diagram in elementary school where there's like a lake and then the water is pulled up into the clouds in the form of water vapor, and then it falls in the form of precipitation, and it goes around in this cycle. It's cyclical, just like the cycles of the moon. It's cyclical just as our emotions are cyclical. We may feel happy and cheerful and productive, and then suddenly we go into this other cycle where we're depressed or we're slow or we're tired, and then we recharge, and then we're up here again, and then we're down here. Cycles are a natural part of life, and they are everywhere. And water has this kind of element to it as well, which is very powerful, and all of this symbolism can be worked into your magical practice in so many ways. So now let's talk specifically about what does that look like in your practice. I've kind of given you some symbolism and what water represents and all that stuff, but what does that look like in a witchcraft practice? You could cleanse your tools with water, whether that is crystals, your cauldron, your mortar and pestle. If you are cleansing your crystals with water, first of all, you want to make sure that your crystals are water safe. Some crystals don't like water and they will get ruined in water. So I'll actually leave a link in the description box below for you guys of a list of crystals that are good for water and not good for water. There's so many websites that have that information out there for you. But you can cleanse your materials, whether it is you just feel like they need a cleanse, or maybe you're using them in a specific spell or ritual, then you want to make sure they're cleansed before that. So water is a way of doing this. You can also cleanse yourself. So if you feel like you are holding on to negative energy, whether that is like you were just with an energy vampire, or just a really negative person, or you were in a bad situation, or you just feel like you've been heavy in carrying something, then cleansing yourself is very helpful. And you can do this in the form of a bath or a shower. Obviously you can do it in the sink. You could just do water and just imagine everything just like going down the drain, all that negative energy, but you can incorporate other ingredients. You can use oils, salt, herbs. There's so many different things that you can incorporate, and different rituals. You could literally make yourself a little mixture that you use specifically when you do this cleansing. So there's so many different ways that are going to be personal to everyone. So the next thing I want to talk about is moon water. First of all, why charge with the moon? What's the point of moon water? The moon is first of all associated with that feminine kind of receptive energy, often seen as that kind of shadow work, that shadow element of us. And when I say feminine, I'm not saying this is only for women. Everybody has a feminine and masculine within them. It's kind of like the yin and the yang. It's all part of us as humans, as a soul, basically. So for moon water specifically, the moon phase is going to determine its power and obviously your intention too, of course. But to determine what it's going to do and the power of the moon water based on the cycle of the moon, I'd look more into the cycles of the moon and learn those better. But depending on what you want to achieve in your working, I would look into specifically the moon phases and what night you want to put your water out. Now, if you're going to drink it or consume it in your tea or whatever it is, obviously you want to use water that is safe to drink and put it in a tight, closed container jar. You don't want it to get tampered with by the, outside world. And the whole idea with this is you put it out at night, but you take it back in before the sun rises. So you might want to set an alarm so that you can do that. If it gets touched by the sun, then it's not really moon water anymore. What do you do with the moon water? Like I said, there's so many different spells, rituals that you can use it for. You can also use it for potions. You can use it for cleansing. You can use it for your plants if you want to. There's also sun water. So basically, as it sounds, it's water charged by the sun. Now for this one, if you again are going to drink it, you want to make sure it's obviously drinkable water that you're using, but you want to make sure it's in a safe container. So if you're putting water out in like a plastic water bottle in the sun, that's not safe. If anyone doesn't know that, what's it called? I almost said BTS. Like, no, that's a Korean band, Dean. What is it called? I'm totally blanking on what the chemical name is. I will put it on the screen if I remember it. But basically, if you put cheap, for example, like just like one of those cheap plastic bottles for bottled water out in the sun, the chemicals eventually seep into the water and that is toxic for you. So don't do that. Please don't drink water that's been sitting in the sun in a plastic bottle. There's certain bottles, plastic bottles, that are safe and it'll tell you that it is free of this chemical or whatever. But the safest way to go is honestly glass, like a mason jar or something like that. So if you absolutely want to drink it, then make sure it's at least in a glass jar that is safe. Why use sun water? Well, sun water kind of is the opposite of the moon. So it is the more masculine element, which is active, and it is kind of basically that active life force energy. If you think about it, the sun gives us and the earth life. Without sun, we wouldn't be alive. We wouldn't have heat. We wouldn't have light. Without sun, there would be no green. There would be no plants, trees. Like, the sun gives everything life. But if it burns too hot, it's also very destructive. So there's kind of various elements that are kind of in works here, depending on the extremes. There's so much that you can work with there, so much symbolism that you can work with there in your rituals and your spells. Sun water can be used for charging because it is that life-giving, it is that charging, that active energy, so you can charge your tools, your crystals. But you can put sun water on your altars. You can use it in spells and rituals. Potions, again, it is that life force energy like I mentioned, but it's also used for like creative energy and also purpose. So there's a lot to work with the sun. And I think honestly also the more that you learn about astrology, the more this is going to help you with like the correspondences and the symbolism part of this. See what resonates with you. The next type of water you can collect is rainwater. And rainwater, again, could be used for all the things I mentioned, spells, rituals, charging. It can be seen as powerful in so many different ways. One, it's water that comes straight from the sky. So that in itself has a lot of power. It's very different than coming from your tap. It's like it's come straight from the gods or Mother Earth, Mother Nature. There's so many different things that you can get into with this. I'm not going to go too deep into what that represents because that could represent different things to different people. I know that I've seen even on plant pages on Instagram that rainwater is actually really good for a lot of plants. Like, a lot of plants just love rainwater. So you could actually collect rainwater and then give it to your plants as intention to help them grow or be more healthy or whatever it is. So you could do plant magic in that way. One thing to note though is that rainwater shouldn't be drank. So please don't drink the rainwater. That is not safe for you to drink. But there's so many things that you can do, and rainwater can kind of like branch off into different categories too, because there's snow water, there's also seawater or lake water, which again, none of these should be drank, but there's ways to work them into your practice. And I actually found a website that talks about like each individual one. So I'll put that down in the description box below if you want to read a little bit more about that. Let's move on because there's still a lot of information to get through. So the next thing I want to talk about more in detail is potions. I briefly mentioned that you can use all these different types of waters in potions, but you can create cleansing sprays and other types of concoctions. You can mix the water that you've collected with different types of like herbs and oils and stuff. But there's so many different things that you can do, like different potions. So it's going to depend on your intention, depend on what you're looking to achieve. So maybe look a little bit more into that if you have a specific type of potion in mind. But you can also do tea magic. Tea magic is working with the water element as well, and you can stir in your intention or banish. replenish with that. So there's so many different things you can do. Now I want to talk about divination, because you can do divination with water in many different ways. So the first one is tea leaf reading, also known as tasseography. Tasseography is obviously using the water element as well, because you drink the tea, which is water and tea leaves. There's also scrying with water. Now, if you don't know what scrying is, you probably still at least have heard of like fortune telling with like a crystal ball or something like that. When someone looks into a crystal ball, sees images, shares information based on what they see in a crystal ball, that is scrying. So there's so many different ways to scry. You don't have to just use a crystal ball. Some people will use a mirror. Some people will use a shiny black surface. Some people will actually use water. And I found this really interesting website, so I'll actually link it down below for you guys, that talks about this. But you can use regular water for scrying, but you can also use something called black water, which is so interesting. So black water is sold by the bottle. Many liquor stores apparently carry it, and so does Amazon. I'll actually put a link down below too of a shop online that specifically sells black water. Basically, it is spring water that has been infused with fulvic acid, which creates an alkaline black colored water. And apparently it's safe to drink, because I've seen it on the website that it has like different flavors and stuff. So you can drink it if you want, apparently, but you can also use it for your divination. And it looks, apparently it's really effective for a lot of people that can't scry with just regular water. Apparently they find the black water very helpful. I've never personally done it, but I'm really intrigued now after I found this on the website. Some people will just use that. The lady that on the website also talks about using ink. So she'll actually mix like different colors of like sparkly inks into the black water. Obviously you can't drink it once the ink's in there. And then she'll kind of like give it a stir, and then like it'll kind of move and create images within the ink and the water. And apparently it's very effective for scrying. So if you want to look more into this, then you can also do that too. Another word for divination with water is hydromancy, and it's basically divination of the appearance or motions of liquid is the actual definition of hydromancy. So technically you don't have to just use water. Also, you don't need to just scry within a bowl of water. This is very popular and common way to do it, but some people will scry at a body of water as well. Some people will like to drop small objects in the water like stones and interpret the ripples. So this is another way of doing it. It's most likely not something that you're gonna be like really good at like right off the bat. It's gonna take some time, and also take some time to get out of your thinking mind and more into your feeling intuitive side to really interpret any sort of symbols or images that you see within the water. So number 8, we're going to talk about the altar. So there's so many ways to work the water element itself into your altar, and many people actually like to keep all 4 elements. Sometimes people will consider spirit a 5th element, so it depends on what you think, but the 4 elements are water, earth, air, and fire. Some people will have all of these at their altar and symbolized in different ways. So if you want to symbolize water specifically at the altar, you could put a jar of water there if you want, or a little like, it can be a small jar if you want. It doesn't have to be anything big, but you can also use shells. Shells are often used as symbolism of water because they come from the sea. You could also use sand from like an ocean or lake, like actually go into the water and take sand from the actual body of water. You can use mermaid statues. Mermaids are often used in a lot of different practices. I don't specifically work with mermaid energy, but I know a lot of people do, and a lot of people use them to symbolize that water element as well. But some people just love working with mermaid energy for many different reasons. So there's lots of books on that specifically, and websites if you want to look into that more. And you can also use the suit of cups in the tarot, because that represents the water element. So maybe you don't have access to all these other things, but you have a tarot deck. You can put like the Queen of Cups or something like that on your altar. So that is another way to represent that element. Next is meditation. It's kind of like a similar experience as scrying, except it's just a little bit more focused on relaxation. Water itself can be very relaxing, and I know I personally love to just go by the lake and just sit there in silence, listen to the birds, whatever sounds that are around me, and just watch the lake, just watch the movement of the water. And it can be extremely relaxing and really good for meditation. So if you are uptight and you're in need of some relaxation, water can be very helpful. Also, the sound of water can be very helpful. So if you can't actually get to like a body of water, you could always just put on the sound effects of like the waves and water moving and listen to that on, like, I'm sure you can find something on Spotify or YouTube or something, and just like listen to that while you meditate. It's extremely relaxing. So number 10, get in touch with your divine feminine energy. So basically the water element very much has that kind of divine feminine element to it. When I think of that divine feminine energy, I definitely think of that like flow, going with the flow, allowing yourself to flow through your cycles without judgment, without resistance, but also just embracing embracing that I am energy without judgment, without labels, without anything. Water just is. It just exists. It moves, it flows, it changes without judgment. And taking that energetic approach to your own life can be very effective. Understand that you are an ever-changing and ever-mutable, so there's no need to attach labels, to attach judgment to yourself, because you are not the same person you were yesterday or a few days ago or last year. You're ever-changing, you're ever-growing, you're ever-evolving. So really taking that energy and, working with the divine feminine, it's very helpful, I think, and very empowering as well. Water is also that sensitive, emotional, that beautiful, soft, forgiving energy. And when you work with the water element, it allows you to start to really be soft and gentle and caring and loving of yourself and the people around you. So I think that getting in touch with the water element will allow you to get in touch with the softer, more feminine side of yourself. And it can be very helpful and very healing in many different ways. The last thing I want to talk about is release. Water can be used for releasing pain. It can be used for releasing traumas, whatever it may be. You can release things in many different ways. And in fact, basically all of the elements can be used for release in different ways. And maybe I'll do a video specifically on this. I'm like, oh my goodness, so many different video ideas now that I'm making this video. But releasing your pain to water can be really effective. And there's so many different ways to do this, but a common way to do this is to get a bowl of water and to put your hands in the water and just basically anything that needs to be released, release it to the water. Think about whatever pain you're going through, whatever traumas, what are you holding on to? Are you holding on to the way someone treated you? Are you holding on to a grudge? Are you holding on to something that happened in your childhood or something that happened, I don't know, like at work the other day? Whatever it is, release it into the water. Picture all of that negativity going into the water. And then when you're done, flush it down the toilet or put it down the drain or pour it outside. Release it to the earth. The earth is really good at transmuting that energy into something that is more positive. But there's so many different ways to release, and water is just a really great way to do that. If you don't have the time to do that, you can also just release it while you're standing in the shower and let all your worries go down the drain. That is another simple way of doing that. So anyways, guys, I'm gonna stop talking because my voice is so sore from talking so much. I hope you guys found this video helpful and informative, and I hope that you can use some of these techniques in your own practice. If you guys did like this video though, please give it a thumbs up because I really do appreciate it. It helps out my channel a lot. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I put up new videos every single week. I wouldn't want you guys to miss out on them. I put up lots of videos on spirituality, witchcraft, self-help, self-improvement, self-love, all that kind of stuff. So if that interests you, please stick around. I would love to have you be a part of our family, Magic Unleashed. I hope you guys have an amazing day or night whenever you're watching this, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.